has been a destructive force unleashed on this town such as I have never seen.
Oh my God, I don't believe this is not happening!
We have got a poltergeist!
Okay, well, folks, I can do a clearance, but it's not going to be cheap. Although I do offer a 6-month guarantee.
Welcome to the latest episode of the podcast That Wouldn't Die. I'm your host, Kevin. With me, as always, is Aaron.
Good day.
This week, we're discussing the horror comedy classic, The Frighteners, starring Michael J. Fox, Jake Busey. Who else is in this thing? Dee Wallace Stone at the time. It's an all-star cast.
And what's his name? Jeffrey Combs, Brother Bear.
Jeffrey Combs is in this, John Astin, and it was directed by Peter Jackson, one of his earlier efforts, for goodness sake. So good times had by all.
Gomez Adams is in this? Who's Gomez playing?
He plays the old ghostly judge character who's shooting things up.
Dude, I never put that together. I never put that together.
He's heavily made up. Let's just say that.
Oh, you think?
Yeah.
You think?
Shocking.
I didn't even recognize his voice, though. I mean, that's fascinating.
Well, it's got his half a jawbone is hanging out. It was kind of upsetting.
But you figure I would pick up his voice. I mean, I did see a lot of Addams Family. They were just cooler than the
Munsters?
Mm-hmm.
I have to say, and I've said this before, I grew up with the Munsters. The Munsters were on every Sunday throughout my childhood. The Addams Family.
Don't get me wrong. Yeah.
I never saw the Addams Family on TV. I think it was when I was in college, then we started to get TBS, and then you saw reruns of the Addams Family on TBS. I never saw Addams Family before that.
I always take a different path, my friend, and I did not watch the Addams Family growing up. I did read the comics, not the comics, but
comic strip or whatever it was.
The comic strip, or whatever the F it is. I thought they were sexier and cooler, but I grew up with the Munsters. It's right. The same with Brady Bunch versus Partridge Family. I watched them all equally. I just thought Partridge Family was better.
Well, it's interesting because I always wondered which one was a ripoff of the other Munsters or the Addams Family. Now, obviously, Addams Family, the comic strip or whatever, was like New Yorker magazine or something from before that. But the shows, actually, I think they both came out at practically exactly the same time. So who's to say?
Well, one was campier than the other, for sure. Just like the Brady Bunch was campier than the Partridge Family, but for sure, the Partridge Family was ripping off the Brady Bunch.
Absolutely.
I mean, and it was supposed to be the Cowsills. It's supposed to be this whole other group of folks, but whatever. For sure, the Partridge Family had snappier songs. Better than "It's a Sunshine Day, Everybody's Smiling."
Can you name one song by the Cowsills?
Shit, I just watched this documentary. They do have a hit that if I played it, you would recognize it.
Yes.
You would recognize it. I just can't remember it because you've asked me a question while we're recording, so now I'm brain damaged. Lay it on. It
was something like Park and the Wind and Other Things. It was
Park and the Wind. Is that the title? That sounds like a Morrissey song.
Yes, I'm making it's something like that. And again, this is a family band from the early 60s. No one knows what the hell we're talking about. Nobody under the age of 75 has any idea who the Cowsills are. So there you go.
I know this.
Look it up.
Oh, I can hear laughing. It's something like that.
No, that's not it.
Shut your mouth. It's right here on the interweb. All right, here it is. We're going. Stop lying. I swear to God, if there's a motherfucking YouTube ad, I'm going to freak out. Yes, there is.
This is good. This is a good pod, by the way.
Smiling in the rain.
Yes, what's the name of the song?
The Rain, the Park, and Other Things.
See? So it wasn't the wind, it was the rain. The rain, the park, and other things.
I hear
knew it was
laughter in the rain.
happy.
And
Okay.
it can make her happy, which does sound an awful lot like a Partridge Family song.
It does, indeed.
Flowers everywhere.
Each week
Yeah.
on the podcast that wouldn't die, we do not discuss the Partridge Family, the Addams Family,
House bills.
and the other families. We discuss guilty pleasures and forgotten classics of the horror.
Let me hold you on there. So the first half of our family, we did have like an hour where we were going to make our own band, and we were going to be like the Partridge Family, only to discover none of us know anything about music or playing an instrument or writing songs. And in the Doherty family, well, we love to sing, and we will sing constantly. 6-hour car drive, 6 hours. I'll be like singing along, not well, but that doesn't deter.
Well, it's the thought that counts. Anywho, we discuss guilty pleasures and forgotten classics of the horror and sci-fi genre with a comedic twist, allegedly. So, Aaron,
as long as I'm laughing, I entertain myself. I'll have you know.
Clearly, you doing better than the Cowsills these days?
Who can say? Who can say? I'm guessing not much is happening that way.
That's true.
That, and they're 30 years older than me, so. I mean, how's it going for the Partridge Family or the Brady Bunch at this point? So,
but they weren't a real family. The Partridge Family was a fake family, and so were the Bradys. The Cowsills, real family.
Well,
like the Osmonds.
Well, David Cassidy was working with his stepmother. That's kind of a family.
That is true. Shirley Jones. Again,
Shirley
no one
Jones,
knows what the hell we're talking about. God, for God's sakes.
At this point, I have to assume they know what we're talking about because this is our pattern of rambulation.
True. And so nothing else going on with you? Should we just go on with the show then?
I am rolling to a music festival, and they've released the set list. Me and the Cowsills. It's also going to be a bunch of other one-hit wonders from the late 60s, early 70s.
Sounds good.
It's a lot of decisions because, of course, they have put all these bands together that you want to see all at the same time. B-52's Human League playing at the same time. Soft Cell versus She Wants Revenge. I really wanted to see that. OMD is up against X. I mean, what kind of bullcrap is that? The only people not playing at the same time is New Order and Tears for Fears. So the entire concert venue will then be shoved over. And as they've all started doing, they now sell quadruple price tickets. And then they cut off half the stage for those people. So I'll be like 90 feet away, perhaps out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, trying to get an eyeful of what's going on at this shit show. So we'll see. It's all supposed to be pouring rain and 50 degrees, and it's at the beach. So
you're telling me it's the rain, the park, and other things?
And other things. It'll make you happy. So that's the big conundrum between me, your sisters, your sister-in-law, who is worthy of our time. Oh, and I want to see the Violent Femmes, but anyway, that's that.
Beautiful.
And then Thanksgiving. So
my wife and I, we're heading to Vegas for a few days right before the Thanksgiving season. So there you go.
Kind of a swingers thing? Is it
Not
a convention?
Is
this a furry thing?
Not furry. I've often said, it's like, if we can get out of the house and just kind of go away and close the door, we can relax for a couple of days. We'll do a little gambling, you know what I'm saying? Walk around, see the freaks come out at night. But it's mainly like, can we just chill for a bit? That's how we do.
Yeah.
So good times.
I myself have booked a couple nights in Vegas in the new year because we have a late Christmas. So same thing. Where I'm just gonna be there. I don't even know if I'm gonna gamble,
Right.
but I'm gonna be far away from all my responsibilities for a couple of days.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, let's get this train back on the tracks. Give us your 30 seconds to know. I always see that. I always see that video of the swarm where the train, a swarm of bees cause a train derailment, which often happens. Anyway, 30 seconds. Go
Speaking
for
of train, whenever anything goes wrong at work, I just start with singing just quietly. So if there's a quiet person near me, they know I just like runaway train, run down the tracks. That is my favorite
Wrong
thing. Like
way.
an IEP is going wrong, I just start whispering, runaway train running down the tracks.
That's good. Now everyone's going to be looking for that cue. Anyway, go for it.
So this is a little ditty we like to call the Frighteners with Michael J. Fox, who does not irritate me at all. In fact, does some good acting in this. I want to put that out there. This is kind of like a take on that crazy stark weather situation. I mean, they've done a lot of movies based on that. Isn't that Natural Born Killers too? Except this time, the girl is now old, but she's been communing with her dead boyfriend who went to the electric chair. And he's continuing his killing spree from beyond the grave. And Michael J. Fox, after an accident, can now like commune with a ghost, but now he's a boozer. And all he does is send his little ghostly friends to F with people, and so he can be a ghostbuster. Ghostbusters! So, it all happy ending, la da da da. Michael J. Fox never made another movie. The end.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. That's a good question. Because there was a period of time where it was Michael J. Fox is in the theaters. I mean, he was all over the place. You know what I mean? He was Teen Wolf. He was Back to the Future. He did a few dramatic turns in there as well.
Yeah.
Doc Hollywood. Go ahead.
I wouldn't say he's a strong actor, but I mean, he's a likable character. Also,
Right.
small as a pixie. I'm sure if you lined up Frodo and everybody else and Tom Cruise, there'd be a straight line right
Billy
across at the
Barty,
police.
yes.
Billy Barty.
Mickey
They're all small
Rooney.
as pixies. Or as speaking of soft cell, sex dwarf. You know,
He's on there as well.
he's
Interesting.
on there.
Do you remember when you saw this the first time?
No, I'm not sure if I saw. I don't think I saw it at the theater. This might be a Blockbuster thing, and I don't remember getting that great reviews. But I did remember enjoying it and being surprised that it didn't do better.
It's funny. I saw this in the theater when it came out, which was like in 90, exactly 94, I think thereabouts.
Yes.
And then I haven't seen it since.
Really, I have. Honestly, this is almost like a creep show. For some reason, it's like always on. The only thing I don't care about this is the runny nose. Everybody has like a runny nose, and I don't care for that.
That's a directing choice, or was the flu going around? This is
what's up with that? It's like everybody, like in Silence of the Lambs, when they put like the whatever the Vaseline or the Vicks Vapor Rub, and then you're having a dramatic scene, but you got like a greasy lip.
Yes,
no,
that's the
don't
rule.
Care for that. I worked with little kids at one point. There was all kinds of things coming out of there, and I don't need to see that. I don't need to see that anymore.
I understand. Secret of My Success. That was another Michael J.
Never saw
movie. it. I mean, going back, I watched this Family Ties during the pandemic. We tried to force our kids to watch Family Ties with us. They were not very receptive.
He always plays the same character, and it's kind of like that small man, cocky character, which I find a little irritating. Not small men. I don't find them irritating.
Well, everybody's small compared to you, Aaron.
Attitude.
Everybody's
I'm sure
Billy Barty.
there are whole basketball teams that are taller than me that make me look like Michael J. Fox. But it's like there's a certain quality that some men of a smaller stature exude. And it's this kind of arrogant cockiness.
Did you say of a smaller statue?
Statute.
Statute? So now it's a legal thing. Interesting.
It should be a legal thing.
Interesting.
Stature, you bastard.
We get there eventually. No,
just because you teach junior high English, don't mess with me.
This is half the fun. This is why I got into teaching.
I cut you.
But
not only that, I'm now working in a senior English class at high school. So,
really? Good for you.
Mm-hmm.
But I was reading the thing. Obviously, Family Ties. You didn't like Family Ties as much as I did. I thought Family Ties was like a seminal '80s sitcom.
I remember watching it when it was on. It was huge. It was huge.
Very much so. But it was an ensemble show, and frankly, it was initially it was about the parents.
Right.
The parents were hippies. It was kind of that 30-something Big Chill kind of thing where it's like, here are these people who were hippies, but now it's the 80s, and they kind of deal with the 80s consumerism, Reaganomics, things like that.
They flip-flop. Instead of having the hippie rebellious child, of course they have a Reaganite child.
Right.
Because this is an 80s show.
But as the show progressed, Michael J. Fox became very popular. Very popular. And I guess at one point, the studio executives wanted to change the intro and lead off with Michael J. Like have him be like Family Ties with Michael J. Fox. And he actually said no.
Starring. Yeah.
He said no. He turned it down. Now, that being said, he can't control the scripts. So more and more of the script became the Michael J. Fox show, and the parents. There was Meredith Baxter Burney, as she was known at the time. Michael Gross.
One of them, like the parents worked for PBS. It was exactly what you think.
Yes,
it was, and which is a terrible name. Why wouldn't you have changed that? Come on.
What's a terrible name?
Gross.
Michael Gross.
I used to live next to people when I was in college whose last name was Pig. And the two G's.
I knew that. I knew a pig as well. But there were multiple Grosses, since we're going off on this tangent. You had Michael Gross, obviously. You had Mary Gross, who was on Saturday Night Live at the time.
And then there's Gross Men.
Well, that's true. These are all upsetting names. Anyway, let's get it back. What are we talking about?
Because Dorothy is the prize of all names.
Yes, it is. So we're 20 minutes into the podcast. I don't think we've begun to scratch the surface of the Frighteners. So
I will tell you, I have seen the Frighteners as probably as many times as I have seen Creepshow. Because it's one of those things where obviously it's free for the networks to buy and show. Because it used to always seem to be on.
Why would it be free?
No, I mean for them to acquire, like it's in the public domain or something.
I don't think it is in the public domain.
For a long time, I swear to you, you could flip the dial and it would be playing somewhere.
Interesting. Now,
there was the Indian crying and the Frighteners always on.
The reason why I'm actually the one who said we should do the Frighteners, even though I hadn't seen it in 30 years, is because we had been on multiple podcasts within the last month or so where the Frighteners came up in conversation as people going, "Oh, I love the Frighteners."
I believe I'm the one that brought it up every time.
You as well.
Just, by the way.
Well, okay. Maybe you.
This is how I control you and your decision making, because I just whisper things.
But whenever you threw it out there, the reaction was always like, "Oh yes, absolutely, preach, sister." Right? And I'm like, I haven't seen this in 30 years, and I don't remember being that enthusiastic about it 30 years ago. So,
all right, so then this will be interesting because I think it has it has some layers, it has some twists. It's not scary. It's
Right.
it's more adventure than scary, but there's some dark stuff, there's some special effects. I mean, it's not effing Gandhi or anything. It's not Moonlight, but it's entertaining.
It's interesting because I find this movie and I'm not going to spoil my rating, but I think it's kind of a weird
I can already
jumble.
tell.
It's a weird
I can
jumble.
already tell. I'm
3
not going to
stars.
spoil it, but let me.
3 stars.
That is a surprise, Kevin.
It's like, because the ghosts for the friendly ghosts are it's like almost like it's for kids, the way they're doing stuff. Like it's like zany. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then when the evil ghosts roll around, it's like that would scare the hell out of real kids. Little kids watching this go, "Ooh, it's Casper." Now the Grim Reaper's on the list.
There's a Busey coming to get me. That's enough right there.
There is a Busey. Can I also say this is the golden age of Jake Busey? There's a couple years there in the 90s where Jake was all over the place. I don't know why. Who's to say?
I had no idea. He was a Busey.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, let's jump in. Aaron, what are your highlights?
It was filmed in New Zealand, which made me laugh because I was recently on a tirade about New Zealand, which seems like a perfectly fine place, but...
And why was it filmed in New Zealand? Because the director's from New Zealand, so they had to fly in the entire cast to do this?
I'm assuming tax breaks because I have to assume there's only like 6 people, including a girl named Mifanwi that I knew at Humboldt, and that's it. Correct. So like her and 5 other people live in New Zealand.
That's correct. No. Anything else? It's beautiful country, I hear.
I mean, I would go. I would have to make a stop because that's going to be an long flight. I'd be more inclined to go to New Zealand than Australia. I don't have a burning desire to go to Australia.
I mean, I could go either way. I could definitely go either way. But if
I want a trip, I would go.
If you want a trip, that's good Lord.
All expense paid. It costs me no money and only my time. Then I'm down. Where do you want to go?
It's just funny because there's no reason why this had to be filmed in New Zealand. It kind of looked like it was like the Pacific Northwest or something because it was always like foggy. So I don't know. Maybe that's New Zealand.
I Googled it because I was like, "Where's this film?" But I guess it's filmed in the. What was the other movie we saw? Housebound.
Yeah.
So it's right next door to that.
I mean, it's kind of like what we said. This movie gave me serious Sixth Sense vibes because that's basically what it was. I mean, did Sixth Sense rip off this movie where there's a guy who sees dead people and communicates with them? They're like buddies and chit-chatting with each other.
It doesn't seem all that comfortable with it either, even though these dudes, his little sidekicks, seem like a buddy. Seem like they're buddies, but at the same time, I don't know, maybe because his character is an alcoholic, who can say?
Well, because basically what it is, and these ghosts are different than ghosts you've seen in other things, because he sees them and they're all like kind of shimmery, blah, blah, blah. However, they can, unlike the movie Ghost, they can actively like grab things in the real world and move things around, but you can't see them. And you can't hear them. So you only know they're there because things are floating around the room, essentially.
I don't want to think that ghosts are going to grab me. But as we learn in the Legend of Hell House, ghosts can get rapey.
Oh, we never watched The Legend of Hell House. We have this discussion 1,000 times. We haven't seen it.
Put it on the list, brother.
People have asked us to put The Legend of Hell House on the list. I wasn't sure if you were talking about The Haunting of Hill House or The House of Haunting.
The Legend of Hell House. I mean, they're all the same fucking movie. It's just that one has rapey in it.
That's true.
I have to add the IE, otherwise it's just sad, depressing.
It's no laughing matter, Aaron. In all honesty,
no.
Stop bringing it.
I do have one thing to share. Jeffrey Combs.
Yes.
Looks like Colin Farrell at some point during the filming of this.
I have to say, the Jeffrey Combs FBI agent is the most bizarre And like, what were they? So he thinks Michael J is responsible for these murders. Am I correct? Is that what's
Right.
happening? He
I
thinks
think
he's to blame.
he's responsible, and that he thinks he killed his wife.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like he knows something else is going on, but just doesn't care, or there's something else.
Well,
Like, does he know the ghosts are there? I mean, I don't get it.
I think we were just. It took me a minute, but I think we're just supposed to think he's nuts. He's nuts because he said he's gone undercover with cults many, many times, so that later in the movie, when he unmotivatedly rips open his shirt to reveal scars all over his chest. I think at that point we should say, "Oh, all of your years undercover with various cults has addled your brain to the point where he's like pulling out Uzis and he shoots Michael J. He pulls out an Uzi and shoots Michael J. Fox at one point, and
And it's
then
also not the first time. There's more than one time he rips off his shirt to reveal something. Then he like rips it off to reveal he has like some duct tape bulletproof vest at another time.
oh, that's right, yes, like because the lead bulletproof vest means what? That the Grim Reaper can't reach into his heart and stop his heart the way he has so many other
Which
people.
implies, of course, that I think he thinks that Michael J. Fox is causing this through some psychic ability.
Okay,
I believe he thinks it's a supernatural thing, because basically all these people are dying because it appears their heart is just crunched or something.
Right.
Something reaches into their chest and squeezes their heart, which is, I'm not sure how that looks in an autopsy for them to figure out.
Correct.
I mean, it's a big muscle. I mean, I can guess you squeeze it, it stops being, you release it. I assumed it would just pop back into shape, but apparently that's not the case.
Like a beach ball. Isn't that the way it
It
works?
just becomes like an old prune or something. It's just all squizzled up there.
Well,
so I believe he thinks that Michael J. Fox is doing that.
Right. So
otherwise, there's no reason to have this bulletproof, demon-proof chest to cull thing. And why couldn't he reach up underneath where his crotch is and go all the way up?
Go right
just
up
go
through the
full
crotch.
arm. Go right up through the other orifice.
Absolutely, the only way. That character was so ridiculous. Like later in the movie, Michael J's got the urn that has the killer's ashes, and he's trying to take it to consecrated ground. In an abandoned insane asylum, there's a still consecrated chapel located with
Of course, none of that makes sense. First of all, like this would have been a crime committed in like the 50s.
Yes.
It's in like a 1930s Hitler's urn. And then when places are decommissioned, so are the chapels.
Right.
So you might as well just throw it in the middle of I-5. So it's that consecrated. Please do, my friend. Because this is a town without churches, because you couldn't just go to the church and put it in the baptismal font.
Can't do it. In the baptism. I'm sure the priest would appreciate that, by the way. If you roll it there and just dump some old ashes into the baptismal font.
In our story, everyone's always going to a Catholic church.
Absolutely.
I mean, you can throw it. How close do you have to be inside the church? What if you went to the parking lot of a church and there's like planters and you just put the ashes there? Where does the consecration end? At the door, or where the land the church owns ends? Can you go to the place where they have like the coffee and donuts after a Sunday service, like the 10 a.m. service, the parish hall, and flush them down the toilet? Is it toilet water consecrated?
Somehow I don't think so, if I had to guess.
Pope Francis is on Twitter, or on X, I guess. It's hard to say that.
So but shoot him over an X.
What do they call it? I'm sure. I don't even know. But when I get an email, it still has a bird. It still says Twitter, even though it's X.
They haven't gotten around to changing that shit.
Their AI is a little slow.
But okay, so he has the ashes and he's trying to get to the chapel, and the FBI agent takes it and literally says, "Oh, were you going to take this to consecrated ground?" And then he just dumps it out for no reason. It's like, so what do you do? Why would you dump out the ashes if you think he's the killer? I can't even speak. I find his motivations incomprehensible.
Kevin,
please.
I just want to say, you're not wrong.
Thank you. Sometimes that's all I need.
So we're gonna paint this with a brush that he's just crazy to excuse all his behavior that makes no sense.
That makes no GD sense.
And the Colin Farrell, Jeffrey Combs makes no sense.
Correct.
Yes.
So I have to. So towards the beginning of the movie, Michael J. Fox like basically goes to funerals and like tries to pass his cars around. Like he says psychic investigator, but really what he claims to be is like a medium, like Miss Cleo or somebody, Whoopi Goldberg from Ghost, where it's like he can.
I saw a documentary on Miss Cleo.
Is she real? Miss Cleo?
She's a real person.
Oh.
She was not treated fairly though. Poor Miss Cleo. Just trying to make a living.
Miss Cleo, back in the 90s, there were 976 numbers or 1-900 numbers that you call in to talk to a psychic. And the psychic would say, hey, hon, you're about to get a new promotion. Or, hey, hon, your boyfriend's cheating on you, girl. Something along those lines.
All right. I called one of those once on Mom's phone. And I just asked him a quick question, and you could just taste the stretching. They're like, sweetie, I'm going to send you something for free. And then I just need your address and all this stuff. Oh my God. By the time they're done writing down my address, asking me to repeat it, and then they repeat it back to you, you can just hear ching, 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 ching.
Well, how much was it?
So
it was like $3.99 a minute or something?
$3.99 a minute. Hello. How can I help you? But now they always have, back in the day, in fact, I'm seeing them again, like the party lines, the chat lines, where basically you're calling in and there's like 100 people just shouting. Like, it's like the old, this is the Wayback Machine. Like when they used to have like, and maybe this, I'm not on Discord, but from what the screaming I can hear out of my son's room, CompuServe had this thing where you're typing in, but there's 1,000 people typing, and the screen is just going. So you're not sure who's answering you, and it's like 1,000 people just shouting.
They had this on the USA Network. You'd have Miss Cleo would be one commercial. Next commercial would be like, hot girls are waiting to talk to you. Hey, what are you doing tomorrow? Are you going to the mall later? Where it's like that kind of thing. Where it's just like,
hey, good looking.
Right. Who's calling to talk to these? Anyway. Good Lord.
Oh, yeah. It's like something out of Lolita. They're wearing like booty shorts, sucking on a lollipop with red lipstick going, hey, we're waiting to talk to you. God. I know it's 4 a.m, but I'm just a horny 16-year-old. Call me, old man. At $3.99 a minute.
And this isn't on the Playboy channel or Spice or something. This is on the USA Network. I'm trying to good Lord. Anyway, God help us all. Frighteners. So he would go and people were chasing him off. Oh, he's a big fraud. And
he's what they used to call is an ambulance chaser. Yes. Like these lawyers who would go to the hospital and start passing out their cards, because it used to be illegal for lawyers to advertise. So they would like show up, pass out cards. And that's what he's doing, basically.
Right.
He's drumming up business.
But again, people think he's a fraud because, of course, he's claiming I can talk to the dead, blah, blah, blah. So he's driving from the funeral and his business cards fall off his seat. So he's driving and tries to get down and reach for the business cards that have fallen. Who gives a shit if the business cards fall off the seat? This isn't like your coffee spilling or something. So, needless to say, he spins out of control and smashes into a guy's like front lawn, blows up his white picket fence. Now, my question to you is: immediately that night, that guy's house is haunted, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this was all his way of getting out of paying for the guy's fence. Am I right?
100%. 100%.
Okay.
That's the only reason.
So
He didn't want to get sued.
Like we said, basically Michael J can talk to the dead. So he has a couple of like dead ghost henchmen who will go and haunt the house, and then he'll show up, like turn on like a transistor radio and spray holy water around, and then you cut him a check for $450, and then your house is 100%. Is basically what it is.
It's a scam-a-llama ding-dong.
Total scam. But the thing about it is you got the sense, because he kind of threatened his ghosts a couple times. You know, get it together, guys. You're not slamming the toilet lid like you're supposed to. I'm going to send you back to the graveyard if you don't get your shit together.
Send you back? Like I'd be like bumping chest, going, "What you gonna do? What you gonna do? Say something else, Michael J. Fox. Say something else."
That's what I'm saying.
I'm gonna reach in and squeeze your heart. I'll reach over and squeeze your testicle. How about that?
Don't
Boom!
Don't do that. That's not funny. But that night,
it's all fun and games till we start talking testicles.
We start squeezing my balls. That's it. But that night, while he's like doing his mumbo jumbo to scare off the ghosts, he notices that the dude, the owner of the house, like a number appears on his forehead, like 28 or whatever the hell the number is. Kind of a shiny thing that no one else can see but him. Yeah. And then, of course, the next day that dude's dead. And I think there was some backstory like, oh, murders are sweeping through this small town. No one knows what to make of it. 40 people have been killed in the town of 300, essentially. That's a big number, I would argue. Sweet Jesus. So
yeah, for this mysterious thing where they're perfectly healthy and then they're dead. I'm like, shouldn't the government be involved in this?
Yes. Well, and that's why the FBI shows up. But they said, of course, they're most insane FBI agent to deal with the issue.
I wonder if this is like an X-Files, if he's like an X-File guy. Is this Fox Mulder?
Right. I mean, this kind of set the tone. This was early X-Files, early 60s.
I started rewatching X-Files. Still solid. Gillian Anderson, David Duchovny. They're the best.
I watched the first couple of seasons of the X-Files, but eventually, and this is kind of, call me a blasphemer, but this is kind of like when I started watching Doctor Who, where it's like, I'm into it, I'm kind of less into it, but I want to keep watching. Now it's like, homework for me to keep watching, to keep tuning in. So then I just stopped.
Dear. Well, back in the old days before DVRs, it was very complicated. You don't want to miss that one because they did have some effed up episodes where like the weird family, there was like a mom that rolled out from under the bed. She had no limbs.
Oh my God.
There was some effed up episodes. You're like, oh shit. It's not all about aliens.
That is sad but true. There was a moment in this movie where one of the ghosts, evidently he doesn't want the ghosts to ride in the car with them. They have to sit in the trunk because I guess they smear ectoplasm all over everything that they touch.
Is that what's coming out of their nose?
Perhaps. And one of them gets out and says literally, "Oh, I'm suffering from motion sickness." Really? You're dead. And he like...
And he's vomiting.
And he's throwing up. Like, again, this is all meant to be kind of wacky Pee-wee's Playhouse stuff. But there's moments where it's like he gets sprayed in the face with something. The guy's face basically melts off for a second. These were kind of upsetting moments. If you're a kid watching this.
Yeah. I don't think this is a kid show. But why can't the ghosts fly?
Well, the one dude, the Grim Reaper, kind of floats around and does some shit.
Like a rocket. Or he hops like a frog. One or the other.
One or the other. Absolutely. Or he hops like a frog. No question. Sweet Jesus.
Well, we discover that Michael J. Fox was in a car accident and his wife was killed.
Correct.
And during that accident is where he developed his psychic powers, but he's also blamed for the death of his wife. Only now we discover that it was not him that caused the accident, but the dastardly couple of Busey versus old woman.
Well, yes. Well, then we meet we meet Dee Wallace from E.T. early and.
Oh my God, was that Dee Wallace?
Yes, it was.
I'm not used to her with long hair.
With
oh my God,
Howling.
Not a big fan of the Howling.
Oh, shut your.
I'm not solid. I'm not that keen on the Wolfman. I mean, I'll give you American Werewolf in London, but that protracted scene of him fucking turning into werewolf. If it takes you 25 minutes, like I gotta just stand there and watch you before you rip my throat out, I'm just gonna go ahead and leave. How about that?
There's deuces. I'm out.
Deuces. I'm like, you look F up. I'm gonna call Jeffrey Combs of the FBI to come and investigate this.
But so okay. We meet Dee Wallace, and evidently as a teenager, she got involved with the wrong guy who went on a shooting spree at the hospital, which is kind of upsetting by a modern sensibility. Because in '94, it wasn't so common as to be upsetting. Now it seems like this happens all the time in America, I'm sad to say.
Well, I mean, this was happening in the 50s, these killing sprees. We like to think we invented violence right now. And maybe it's happening more, but it's not like in this idyllic period of the past, nothing ever went wrong.
No, but it's ubiquitous now, is the thing about it. I mean, the number of mass shootings in America is shocking. So to see this scene... in '94, it went right. I was like, oh, well, violence happens in movies all the time. Now to watch it with modern eyes, I was like, oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
But this was like you said, this is based on real events where it's kind of an older guy kind of seduces a younger girl and they go on crime sprees together, like a Bonnie and Clyde, but much, much more horrible.
Right. And she really seemed to enjoy it. I mean, basically, they made them straight up crazy, so we didn't have to understand them or try to figure them out. They're both just a couple of nutballs.
Right. Well, the thing you were supposed to think is that she was kind of a Patty Hearst kind of situation, where it's just like, oh, it wasn't really me. It was my mean boyfriend who did all this shit. I just was there with him because I was too afraid.
That's how she escaped the death chamber, but then it's revealed that she's into it.
Well, and that's the thing, because the mom, the woman's older mom is like, no, she can't go outside.
I have to say, looked like Gary Oldman in Nosferatu.
Yes. not in Nosferatu, but yes, in Bram Stoker's Dracula. Yes.
I've crossed oceans to be with you.
Is Gary with us right now?
I'm channeling. My Gary senses are tingling.
Yes, you're crazy. So the older mother is from Mary on, like, my daughter's not well, leave her alone. Even though she seems very sweet, of course, it's revealed in the end that she is a stone cold psychopath as well. And
so the question is, what triggers this explosion? If this has quietly been going on forever, what is triggering it to just explode right now?
They said in a total throwaway line at the end of the movie, the sheriff rolls and says, hey, we checked out that house and found a room full of Ouija boards. Like somehow suggesting that she started using Ouija boards to connect. Because again, she can see her ghost boyfriend.
Right.
She can interact like she's Michael J., which no one else can. So
the question is, I assume that since he got fried, they had been in communication the whole time because she's been knocking off people for years.
I don't think so. I think
Well, she
they.
killed Michael J. Fox. They killed Michael J. Fox's wife. She was there carving
Oh, that's
the
true. That was, yeah.
remember that?
That was. I mean, what did they say? It was
And that
3
was a
years
couple of
ago.
years ago. Yeah. So
Yeah.
this is they've been together for at least 3 years.
No, you're right. You're right. So yeah, you're
So
right. So
no one knows.
she conjured him back, and he reaches into their heart, but she was the one, as a real live person, who carved a number with the X-Acto knife or whatever it was,
Right.
in Michael J. Fox's dead wife's forehead to establish, because he's trying to break the record of most people killed by a serial killer, I guess, is very important to him.
Right. But then he's also throwing out contemporary people who wouldn't have been alive like
Right.
when he was alive. So is he keeping up on the literature or what?
Yes. Yes, he is, as a matter of fact.
Is he on that CompuServe chatbot thing?
As I said, the tone is all over the place on this, because you're right. It's like there's a lot of scary stuff where it's like the Grim Reaper character kind of comes through the wall, kind of makes a scary face, and he reaches into their hearts, because people can't see them. They just think they're having a heart attack or something.
Right.
But of course, 2 times in a row, Michael J. Fox is in the wrong place at the wrong time, and of course is the only witness, and he's running from the scene. So the cops are like, and what's funny is the cops are not even that convinced. His buddy, the sheriff, is just like, oh, that's not him. That's not.
Yeah, 100% convinced. I mean, sometimes it pays to be from a small town.
I guess.
They're like, I ain't him. If that was L.A., well, after they beat you, and they would have dragged you off.
After they beat you to death, they would definitely handcuff you. No question. Sweet Lord. And then there's the moment where it's like he meets the widow for dinner. Michael J. meets the widow for dinner at like some kind of medieval times restaurant. What was the purpose of that?
And her husband had a runny nose too. We all have post-nasal drip in the afterlife. That sounds terrible.
Yes. And the Grim Reaper, who can kill real people by reaching into their chests and squeezing their hearts, he can also kill other ghosts. He goes around, he chops the judge in half with his scythe. He kills Stuart, the friendly ghost. He kills the husband ghost.
Yeah.
So he's killing people who are already dead. That's serious.
And once again, is that in like the Beetlejuice book, handbook for the recently deceased? It's all in there.
There was a moment, a particularly disturbing moment. They're at the museum where somebody has recently died, and the sheriff, I keep saying the sheriff, the judge ghost shows up and starts shooting the evil Grim Reaper ghost. Boom, 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 and thinks that he's succeeded. And to celebrate, he jumps into an Egyptian sarcophagus and proceeds to have sex with the corpse, with the mummy.
I didn't care for that. I didn't.
And he says something like, "And she was so still, just the way I like it," or made some. It was very upsetting.
It was very creepy. It was very. I was like, I don't need to see. Now you're telling me it's Gomez Adams humping away. It's
Gomez Adams. Very upsetting.
Now I want you to notice this. So 3 years before, when Michael J. Fox is in the fight with his wife, before the car accident, he had long hair. He was clearly Eric Stoltz. Did you notice that?
I noticed he had long hair. I didn't make the Eric Stoltz connection.
He looked exactly like Eric Stoltz. It was very strange. I was like, what the heck?
He had bizarrely long hair for the 90s.
It was clearly a terrible wig.
Yeah, terrible wig. And the fight they were having is he's building a house because he was a successful architect. for his wife, and his wife wanted to have a flower garden of some sort, and he instead paved it over to put in a basketball court. All 5'2" of Michael J wanted to have a basketball court.
He kind of got one of those little tyke ones, and then you just put it in the garage when you're done.
Pretty much. It's a sad situation.
We're all going to hell tonight. Yeah. So that was kind of a dick move.
Kind of a dick move. So they argued, and that's why people thought that if you argue with your wife and she winds up dead, you must be the murderer.
So be careful.
So be careful. So mind your tone with me is what I say.
Mind your tone. I like that, because let me tell you what is not cool. Happy wife, happy life. That just makes my toes curl under. That sounds so pussified and so creepy. But yeah, mind your fucking tone, son of a bitch. How's that for a tone?
You sound like Bill Maher, because I remember him saying something similar to that on one of his shows.
Oh no.
That. What?
I hate that.
Yeah.
That's okay. Because you know what? I'm starting to hate Bill Maher. I'm like, I don't even know what the F he's saying half the time. It's like, really? Not between the COVID shit and the constant banging on the Biden drum. I'm like, dude, you just sound like a grumpy old fucked up man. I'm so tired of hearing you moan.
I don't disagree. Any last thoughts of the Frighteners? And we go behind the scenes.
I have to say, one, I thought it was weird that Jeffrey Combs, because I was like, there is this movie with Colin Farrell, who I swear to you has the Jeffrey Combs haircuts. So I had to Google it while I like paused the movie. I was like, Jeffrey Combs / Colin Farrell? Who'd ever put that together? To separated at birth?
Well, clearly they share the same DNA.
Make sure you look that up and post that onto our for our Patreon listeners.
They'll appreciate it, I'm sure. Let's go behind the scenes, shall we?
Let's do it.
It was during filming on this on location in New Zealand that Michael J. Fox made up his mind that he'd had enough of being away from his family making movies and decided to head back to the small screen and star in the new sitcom Spin City. So this turned out to be his last leading role in a film.
Like and you know what? I support that. I mean, he could have done films in frickin' LA, but it doesn't all have to be. But I also read something about Mandy Patinkin, and that's why he left whatever the F doctor show. Remember when he was on that doctor show?
Yeah, he was on Chicago Hope.
He was on Chicago Hope, and one of his kids said something shitty like, you know, you're always gone. You care more about that. Some jib job like that. And so then he was out. So I appreciate people putting family first.
Well, Mandy Patinkin's a funny case. My daughter Grace used to love that show Criminal Minds. I think it's on Netflix now. And originally it was a Mandy Patinkin vehicle where they are FBI people who go after serial killers. And he said after doing that for a couple of years, it was so upsetting to him that he had to quit the show. Because every week they're investigating some murder or rape, you know, like somebody like kidnapping a family. And he's just like, I can't have my brain in this every week for, you know,
I mean, he was in Homeland. That was another gut twister.
It's true.
You know, but I gotta tell you, he's solid. Before you came on, I was watching Impromptu. I don't know if you ever saw that with our beloved Julian Sands, but he's in it too. And young Mandy Patinkin. And, you know, I gotta tell you, he brings it. He's 150 years old. He can still show up and knock our boots off.
You can't doubt old Mandy, let me tell you.
You cannot deny Mandy Patinkin.
You can't.
If he's doing it, he's doing it right.
Michael J. Fox repeatedly blew his lines by calling the judge Doc, which was the name of Christopher Lloyd's character in Back to the Future.
I don't know why you just didn't leave that in there. That's kind of funny, though.
Might as well. The film was originally made to be PG-13. However, the MPAA thought the film was too intense for the rating and gave it an R. And no matter
It wasn't
how
the
much
humping.
it was the humping, it was the necrophilia. No matter how much Peter Jackson would edit the movie to try to get a desired rating, the ratings board would keep it at R, including citing some reasons like a door was shot by a gun too many times. So Jackson, being angry that he toned himself down for nothing, changed a death scene in the movie to be more graphic. And that's the scene where the guy gets his head blown off at the end. He makes that more gross. So
I remember it being impressed with the creature coming through the walls and the wallpaper at the time.
Absolutely.
I remember that being like creepy. I'm like, I don't want that to happen.
No, it is.
If I'm
creepy.
in a room, I don't want anyone doing that.
This was going to be like an episode of Tales from the Crypt, but Robert Zemeckis liked the story enough that he was like, I'm going to flesh it out to make it a feature-length movie. Now, he didn't direct this, but he like produced it and kind of guided it, and he was the one who actually found Peter Jackson. Prior to this, Peter Jackson had done a movie called Heavenly Creatures with Kate Winslet in '94.
Oh, I saw that. That was good.
And people loved
it. The two girls that killed their parents so they could be together.
Right. So people loved it, and that kind of kickstarted his Hollywood career. Danny Elfman was so impressed with Heavenly Creatures, he offered to do the score for Jackson's movies and agreed to do this without even knowing what it was about. So
I'm just gonna say that this is not on the same level as Heavenly Creatures.
Some would argue.
I'm gonna go out and risk that.
They were writing the part of a drill sergeant for the Graveyard. It was meant to be a spoof of R. Lee Ermey's character in Full Metal Jacket, but eventually they just hired R. Lee Ermey to play the exact same
like,
role.
let's just get him, because everybody loves him. Everybody loves him.
He's great.
Although I'm still psychologically scarred by Full Metal Jacket, and I can never. And I honestly, I think it made what's his face lose his mind. So
no shockers. It was Jeffrey Combs who suggested the Adolf Hitler-inspired haircut for his character.
Of course it was.
And he also suggested 2 ear appliances to make his ears stick out quite comically. And he suggested several of the chest tattoos. So.
And I did write down that when he does expose his chest plate, he did go to the trouble to add nipples to it.
You got to. You got to. Like those Batman movies from the late 90s, the Joel Schumacher, where it was like close-ups on like the bat ass and close-up on the bat nipples. And oh, yeah. Serious.
But why stop there? Is he circumcised? Is he not? Can we just have an outline of that too?
I don't think it's too much to ask at this stage of the game. Oh, goodness. Let's talk about the cast and crew, shall we?
All righty.
Written and directed by Peter Jackson. You know him from such things as Lord of the Rings. He was a producer.
Lord of the Rings.
He did a movie called Bad Taste in 1987. And he did the 2005 King Kong.
That's nothing to brag about. What's Bad Taste? Is that about, what's his name?
Probably. Michael J. Fox played Frank Bannister. You know him from such things as Back to the Future, Back to the Future 2, Spin City for 103 episodes. And of course, 1996's The Frighteners.
Mm-hmm.
Trini Alvarado played Lucy Linsky, who we didn't even talk about at all. She was the widow of the guy, basically the love interest in the movie.
She was very cute. She looked very familiar.
She had a few moments there in the early 90s. She was in Little Women in 1994 with Winona Ryder and
God,
Kirsten
I hate
Dunst.
Winona Ryder.
Oh, very upsetting. She was in Stella in 1990 with
Stella.
I think it was with Cher. Am I remembering this? Maybe not.
Stella?
Or Bette Midler. Bette Midler. That's who it's with.
All right.
And in 2022, she was in 5 episodes of The Staircase, and of course,
oh, I did see that. The documentary or the movie with Pride and Prejudice.
I don't know.
Okay.
Peter Dobson played Ray Linsky, the husband who gets killed early on in the movie. You know him from Forrest Gump. He played young Elvis Presley.
Yeah.
He was in The Demo in 2016,
I don't know
King
what the
in
hell that is.
2021, and 3
No.
Days in Malay in 2023.
3 Days of Malaise is what it sounds like.
Oh, very upsetting. John Aston played the judge. You know him from such things as The Frighteners. 64 episodes of The Addams Family as Gomez Addams.
And he's Sean Astin's father.
Sean Astin, Mackenzie Astin.
I don't know who this Mackenzie is.
In 1962, That Touch of Mink. 1972, Evil Roy Slade. He was married to Patty Duke for about 5 minutes there.
Yeah.
Let's see. Jeffrey Combs played insane FBI agent Milton Dammers. You know him from such things as The Frighteners, Reanimator in 1985.
Yeah.
He was in 2012's Would You Rather.
Not familiar.
He was in 32 episodes of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, playing variety characters.
I did not really watch Deep Space Nine. I was more Next Generation.
Dee Wallace.
That's the one. That was the one with Whoopi Goldberg.
No, that was Next Generation.
What? Are you sure?
I thought she might have been on both. She was definitely on Next Generation, though.
I thought she was the bartender, right?
Yeah, Guinan. Dee Wallace.
That sounds more like Ginen. Go ahead.
I was not going to make that connection.
My name's Gina.
She was in E.T. the Extraterrestrial in 1982. She was in Cujo, 1983. Yep. The Howling, 1981. Critters, 1986. Hills Have Eyes. The list goes on and on and on.
Wait, she was in the old Hills Have Eyes?
She was in the original.
New Hills Have.
The original.
Was she?
Yeah, she
Baby
was the
fat,
pregnant.
You fat and juicy.
That was her baby. Yeah. Jake Busey played Johnny Bartlett, famously Gary Busey's son. You know him from Starship Troopers in 97. The Frighteners. That's one of your 96. Favorites. Stranger Things, 5 episodes, 2019.
Huh.
Yeah.
He's kicking around still.
And 5 episodes of something called LA's Finest. You know, don't you?
No.
2019. I think that's about it. Should we talk about the rating?
I just have one more interesting tidbit. The closing song is Sonic Youth singing the Carpenters cover Superstar.
Don't you remember I told you
love me, baby. It's like it's fantastic. It's like you want to kill yourself while you're listening to it. It's the most depressing version.
Yep. Karen Carpenter had quite a few depressing songs, by the way.
But Sonic Youth really doubled down. Oh yeah.
No one ever cared if I should
live or die. Time and time again. Yep. She had a great voice.
I was listening to that song. It was on the radio. And Becky's like, "Can we turn this?" She was about to take the car off a cliff or something. Anyway,
no. That's with that comment, you should have demanded some kind of marriage counseling because there's something wrong. Who would ever say such a thing?
Anyway, Frighteners currently 67% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes.
See, I just find that so low.
Do you know what the audience gave it?
What did the audience give it?
71. Boom.
I mean, at least it's a C. I was having a conversation with one of my students today who was like, "What's that that movie score thing you always talk about?" I said Rotten Tomatoes. He's like, "Look at Five Nights at Freddy." I was like, "Dude, it's got a 30." He's like, "But what does the audience say, Ms. D?" I'm like, "Oh Jesus, 86."
Well, that's fair. That's fair in the sense like you want to know what people who would be inclined to see it, what they thought of it. You know what I mean? The intended audience. Does the intended audience appreciate it or not? You know what I mean? Something to think
Well, then
about.
there should then be like with an asterisk, and tell me who that intended audience is. Is it
Preach.
12 to 15-year-old boys
Yes.
who 30-year-old incels? You know,
Yes.
what is that intended audience?
That's a good question.
As you can
Gene
see, I
Siskel.
have not rushed out to see it. FYI.
Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune says Michael J. Fox seems to be trying to get hip in the movies, and he's lost his way. 2 out
Trying
of
to
4.
get hip. Too hip to be square.
Janet Maslin of the New York Times says the actors can't keep the film's mood from verging on hysteria as the story roams all over the map. The Frighteners has flitted everywhere, even to heaven and hell before it's over. 2.5 out of 5. Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times. Incredible the amount of work that went into the Frighteners, and appalling. 1 out of 4. Boom. What is your rating of the Frighteners?
Well, I'm just going to give it the standard rating. I enjoyed it. I mean, I've only ever seen it on TV, and that's all you need. It doesn't need to be in the IMAX with whatever Dolby with the shaking seats, or you don't need to see it at the Sphere in Las Vegas, after YouTube clears out.
Fair enough.
It is a solid 3 out of 5. Ghosts with just blazing sinus issues. And if that's heaven, I'm going to live forever. I mean, I don't care if my nose is running down. I just don't want to see everybody else's.
I understand that. I did not hate it. I did not hate it. But I do think the tone is all over the frickin' place. And I thought the kind of particularly zany moments were a little bit too childish for me to appreciate. Like all the ghost, like the friendly ghost stuff, I just found annoying. Truly.
Casper, the friendly ghost.
The friendliest ghost I give it 2.5 out of 5. Michael J's crazy mullet in the flashback for no reason. Unmotivated.
That's a hard hit from you, man. You are Mr. 3.
I'm Mr. 3.
And you're a hardcore Jeffrey Combs on top of that.
I told you, I found his work utterly incomprehensible. It might as well have been
made it so good. What if they remade Eraserhead with Jeffrey Combs with his current outfit, including the nipple plate? Would you like Eraserhead more or less at that point?
Probably about the same. Anywho, any last thoughts, Aaron? Sweet Jesus.
Nah, I've seen this about 100 times, so it's all rote at this point.
So thank you very much. Go to our pages we're on X, we're on Threads, we're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, we're on Facebook. You can and we're on YouTube. You could be watching us as we speak.
No, because we're not live.
But they could be watching another video while we're recording. You never know. You don't know what they're doing.
All right.
They could be peeking through my window. You don't know what they're doing. You can also email us at the podcast that wouldn't die at
Gmail.
We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere the finer podcasts are available. So don't forget to like, share, rate, and review. Won't you?
Won't you?
Aaron, what is your social media situation?
So much media. I'm so much media, I'm exhausted. I say F you, TikTok. Stealing my life, you bastards.
You bastard.
I'm on various things. I'm on Instagram. I'm the Cultivarian. I'm don't feed the pigeon. I'm the Cultivarian on Threads. Professionally, I'm on First Dibs and Artsy, Aaron Doherty. Shipping for Christmas. No Black Friday deals.
Beautiful. As you know, we like to include, viewer, listener, mail, comments, things like that. So here we go.
Comments only from males?
Only from males. It's a rule. I didn't mention this earlier. Talking about our old episode, The Void. William James said, "Oh, I love this movie. It's become a sort of comfort watch. A bunch of my favorite subgenres in one goofy movie." So there you go.
And my comment was, I don't even remember what happened. I just kept thinking, the slot monsters. That needed to be voided.
There's a lot of voiding going on.
A lot of voiding in the void.
Absolutely. Next week, we're going to be discussing a movie I'm shocked we haven't discussed up till now. People Under the Stairs, Wes Craven classic. For goodness sake.
And I saw this at the motherfucking theater. I want to share that, and I'm so angry because I was just going to watch it tonight because it's been on my DVR for like 3 years, and I go to watch it. I only have the last 15 minutes recorded for some reason. Thank you, Amazon. So I guess I'll be throwing down another. I'm sure it's $15 to watch it now, but I do remember enjoying it.
Well,
Let's see.
We'll have to wait and see.
We'll see.
We'll see. No promises. If you want to watch The People Under the Stairs, you can watch it with ads on Tubi. So there you go.
That would be the place. Will it also be in Italian?
It might be in Italian with no subtitles. It's also on AMC Plus if you have that subscription. Otherwise, you may have to pay full freight or watch it with ads. So, such is life. Send in any favorite scenes, favorite quotes, comments, and questions, and we may talk about it on the show. So,
we may.
Thank you very much, and be well.
Be well, my children.